Have you ever wondered why people follow rules, even when they don't agree with them? Well, the answer lies in two fundamental concepts of social psychology: obedience and conformity. Obedience is the act of following orders or guidelines from an authority figure, even when we might not necessarily agree with them. It's why we stop at red lights, pay our taxes, and follow the rules at work or school. Conformity, on the other hand, is the act of matching our attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors to fit in with a group's norms. It's why we dress a certain way for specific social events, or why we might laugh at a joke we don't find funny just because everyone else is laughing. So, how do these concepts influence our everyday lives? Picture this. You're in a school setting. The bell rings, and you move from one class to another, following a set timetable. That's obedience. You're following the rules set by an authority figure, the school. Now, imagine you're in the cafeteria. You notice everyone is using their forks to eat their pasta, even though you'd usually just use a spoon. To fit in, you pick up a fork too. That's conformity. You're adjusting your behavior to match the group norm. In a workplace setting, these concepts are just as prevalent. You might follow strict protocols and procedures. That's obedience. Or perhaps you adopt the lingo and mannerisms of your colleagues to feel accepted. That's conformity. You see, obedience and conformity are not just psychological jargon. They are deeply embedded in our social fabric, influencing our actions and decisions in subtle ways. We obey to avoid punishment or because we respect authority. We conform because we want to fit in or because we're unsure of how to behave, so we look to others for guidance. In essence, obedience and conformity are like invisible puppet strings, subtly guiding our actions and shaping our social world. So the next time you find yourself following a rule or mimicking a group, remember, it's not just you, it's social psychology at work. Obedience and conformity are not just abstract concepts. They are deeply ingrained in our daily lives, shaping our behaviors and decisions. One of the most famous studies on obedience was conducted by psychologist Stanley Milgram. In the early 1960s, Milgram set out to understand the role of obedience in horrific events like the Holocaust, asking the question, how could ordinary people commit such extraordinary acts of violence? To explore this, Milgram designed an experiment that placed individuals in a situation where they had to choose between obeying an authority figure and causing harm to another person. Participants were led to believe they were part of a study on memory and learning. Each participant was paired with another person who they thought was a fellow participant, but was in fact an actor. The real participant was assigned the role of a teacher, while the actor played the learner. The teacher's task was to administer electric shocks to the learner every time they answered a question incorrectly. The shock started at a mild level, but increased with each wrong answer, going up to a lethal voltage. The catch: there was no actual shock. The learner was acting, pretending to be in pain. As the shocks escalated, the learner would plead for the experiment to stop, but the experimenter would insist the teacher continue, stressing the importance of the study. Much to Milgram's surprise and dismay, a large majority of participants complied, administering what they believed to be dangerous shocks despite their obvious discomfort and the learner's protests. This experiment revealed a chilling truth about human nature. When under the influence of an authoritative figure, people are often willing to go against their moral compass, even to the point of causing harm to others. It demonstrated how obedience to authority can override personal judgment and ethical considerations. The Milgram experiment shows us just how powerful and potentially dangerous obedience can be. It serves as a stark reminder that we must always question authority, especially when it asks us to compromise our own values and principles. After all, obedience without question can lead us down a very dark path indeed. Now, let's turn our attention to conformity. Ever noticed how people tend to follow the crowd? Conformity in the realm of social psychology is a powerful behavioral force that pushes us to align our actions, beliefs, and attitudes with those around us. It's a natural tendency, deeply rooted in our need to belong and feel accepted by the group. Imagine this. You're browsing through a clothing store, and you notice a shirt that's not quite your style. But then, You see several people in the store picking up the same shirt, and suddenly, you find yourself reconsidering. That's conformity in action. Or think about those popular social media challenges that seem to pop up every other week. How many times have you seen someone doing a quirky dance or a peculiar task, only to find yourself mimicking them later? That's not just because it's fun or trendy. It's a clear example of how conformity works. We conform because it's easier to go with the flow than to swim against the current. It helps us fit in, avoid conflict, and gain social approval. But it's essential to remember that while conformity can create a sense of unity and shared identity, it can also stifle individuality and creativity. Conformity, like obedience, can greatly influence our actions, often without us even realizing it. So, how do obedience and conformity shape our lives and societies? Indeed, these are powerful social forces that both bind us together and sometimes pull us apart. On the positive side, obedience and conformity foster social harmony and cooperation. They help us live together in relative peace. Imagine a world without traffic rules, where no one obeys the red light or conforms to the speed limit. Chaos, right? These norms, which we obey and conform to, keep our societies functioning smoothly. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Obedience and conformity can also lead to harmful behaviors. We've all heard stories of people doing terrible things just because they were ordered to, or because everyone else was doing it. Remember the Milgram experiment? It's a stark reminder of how obedience can lead us down a dark path. Moreover, excessive conformity can stifle individuality and creativity. It can create a culture where everyone is afraid to stand out or express unique ideas. Think about the fashion industry, where trends dictate what everyone should wear, leaving little room for personal style. Understanding obedience and conformity can help us navigate social situations more effectively and make more conscious decisions about our own behavior. It's about finding the balance between fitting